former legal advisor to the Palestinian negotiation team, joining us from Haifa, and we thank you for your time. I was reading something that you wrote or said on AlJazeera.com today. This is a man who, from the very beginning, was a war criminal. He's somebody who believed in the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. Maybe you'd like to explain that to our viewers who would see what all those former US presidents have just said and wonder about the contrast.
Yes, definitely. I think what happens when Israeli war criminals die is that the news media ends up trying to whitewash their crimes, and that's because the other world leaders also do the same. I think it's important to keep in mind that in 1948, with the establishment of Israel, came the ethnic cleansing of the indigenous Palestinian population, and Shimon Peres was somebody who not only oversaw that, but continued to support it throughout his lifetime. The other element that was missing from the obituary that was in your segment was the fact that Shimon Peres was the prime minister of Israel for a period of time, and during the period that he was the prime minister, he took about a process of bombing a UN compound in southern Lebanon, a bombing that ended up killing over 100 Lebanese civilians, as well as injuring over nearly 200 Lebanese civilians, when in fact he knew that this compound was a civilian compound. And despite the fact that UN reports and Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International indicated that what he had done was a war crime, it seems that people tend to gloss over these war crimes in order to try to glorify him as a man of peace, which he was not. He was a war criminal.
Okay, well, this is what I was going to ask you. Is there not a part of him that was a man of peace? I mean, just as you're talking, we're looking at the pictures from Oslo in 1994 when he received the Nobel Peace Prize alongside Yasser Arafat. Wasn't that an achievement of sorts?
No, not at all. I think it's important also to keep his legacy in mind in its proper political context. Here is a man who has never indicated that he believed in equality for Palestinians, and even as he was embarking on the Oslo Accords, throughout the period that he directly influenced those Oslo Accords, he never once came forward and said that Palestinians had a right to equal statehood. In fact, he put us on a path of negotiations that 23 years later, all that we see is a tripling, close to quadrupling of the number of settlers that are living in occupied territory. The only thing that Shimon Peres did was set about a legacy of impunity and lack of accountability, whether it was through his nuclear program, for which Israel has never submitted to any inspections whatsoever, while demanding that Iran and Iraq submit to inspections, or whether it was his settlement construction, which has to be kept in mind is completely illegal and considered a war crime under the International Court of Justice, International Criminal Court, or the fact that he bombed this UN compound, which has now become commonplace in Israeli practice to bomb UN compounds, as we saw in the year 2014. Shimon Peres' legacy is that of impunity. Simply placing the name peace on a building doesn't actually make you a peacenik. What he has done is he's made the word peace devoid of any meaning in Israel.
Buttu joining us from Haifa. We thank you very much for your time and for your thoughts.